Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I am so excited to welcome Gregory Wilkins here. He is the artist, and he's just going to give a talk about the show, about his influences, and his past, his future, all of that good stuff. So with that, I will turn it over to Greg.
Thank you, Molly. Before I begin, I would like to do a land acknowledgement. Hutchinson is a community situated in a network of historical and contemporary relationships with the Native American tribes and other diverse communities. We are also in close proximity to the White Earth Nation in Minneapolis and St. Paul, an urban area, as well as several tribes around the Midwest. The Hutchinson Center for the Arts is on traditional lands of the Dakota and Anishinaabe people. It is also a site of trade, gathering, celebrations, and healing for Indigenous people, and is home to over 4,000 tribal members in the state of Minnesota. Nearly 61,000 Minnesotans are Indigenous to Minnesota and Alaska, representing over 1% of the state's population. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until we come. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until we come. We who believe in freedom cannot rest are the words of Ella's song. I would like to thank all of you all for being here tonight, but particularly the Southwest Minnesota Arts Council, the Minnesota State Arts Board, as well as preventing and providing grants for creative support for artists, as well as the National Endowment for the Arts, of which this opportunity would not have been made possible. My name is Greg Wilkins, and it's a joy and a pleasure to be here in this great place, Hutchinson Center for the Arts. I was born in Chicago, Illinois, and a child of the 60s, and I moved to the Jim Crow South in the 70s, and I was involved in desegregation of schools, and I was faced immediately, as soon as my family arrived to the Jim Crow South, with regards to diversity, hate, and awful experiences. I come from a family that is multicultural and multi-ethnic. I have an African-American brother, an Asian sister. I'm also one of the 7 children, one of the 4 that are biologically white, and I'm also a twin. Leaving the South and then moving my way a little further north, I ended up doing my undergraduate work in North Carolina at a school called Warren Wilson College. Warren Wilson is one of 8 schools in the nation where the students run the entire institution. We have our own operating farm and garden. We raise all of our own pork and beef and produce, and every single student has to work in order to sustain the college community. And that experience for me was transformative, and I was able to find my voice by working and living with communities that were different from my own, and I was also able to find my voice with regards to social justice. Upon graduating, I had an opportunity to work at the Smithsonian Institution at the Museum of American Art. And there were 2 major things that were happening at that time. One was the Congress's energy with regards to the cultural wars with the National Endowment for the Arts. And Congress was upset about some of the art that was being portrayed and being seen for the public view that were part of the tax dollars that all of us pay into. And with that experience, I realized that I had an opportunity to bring my voice also into my art to create change in community. The other thing that was a major part of my life at that time was we were, at that time, dealing with my first global pandemic, which was HIV/AIDS. And friends around my community were dying left and right. They might be alive one moment, within a month, 2 months, within a year, they were dead. So where's John? Oh, you didn't hear? No, he's dead. The bug got him. Or what other people knew him as the gay man's cancer. But in particular, it was also devastating with regards to the Black and brown communities. And I started doing work with Whitman Walker Clinic as a person, or we call them buddies, with my first PWA, which stands for a person with AIDS. My first client that I had, his name was Ed, and he was 275 pounds of pure muscle and fabulousness. He was a Marine, and he was tough. And very quickly, within 9 months, he went down to 110 pounds, and he died. And he didn't come out with who he was as a gay man because he was in a military hospital. And his concern was if he came out at that time, he would lose his military benefits. And instead, he shared the story that he was a drug user, which was not the case. When I started doing this work, and I left then after being in DC, the piece that's in the very front of the building when you first walk in is honoring him. It's called Black Lives Matter AIDS. And it was kind of interesting because that piece, I ended up scrolling up, putting into my studio, and when the murder of George Floyd happened, I was like, man, I know that title, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. And then I undid it. Who knew I was ahead of the times by 30 years? It's called Black Lives Matter AIDS versus just Black Lives Matter with the hashtag. And it makes you go to realize again that we who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. It is our responsibility as engaged people to create those moments of change and to bring dialogue to communities that might be afraid of change. Coming here to Minnesota in 2009, I was working at Minnesota State University, Mankato. And the death and the murder of Trayvon Martin at the hands of George Zimmerman really disturbed me. And in Florida, they have a law called Stand Your Ground. And the reason why George felt like he could murder Trayvon is because he didn't look like the other people on those public streets in that community. These are public streets. They're not white streets. They're not black streets. They're not Latino or LGBT streets. They're public streets. And he took it upon himself to murder Trayvon Martin. This is important to me, partly because this happened just 2 towns over where I grew up in Florida. And when Trayvon was taken down by the hands of George Zimmerman, I immediately had my mind rush to my own brother, my black brother, my black brother's sisters, and my own black brother's nieces and nephews that I call family. That boy could have been my own family. And again, it rings true the idea that we who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. He was murdered in 2012. Here in our great state of Minnesota, just 8 years later, George Floyd was murdered on the streets of Minneapolis with a knee stuck to his back and his neck, begging for the words, "I can't breathe." And Derek Chauvin, a white police officer, stayed there upon his back and his neck as the life was drained from George's body. And the community gathered, trying to rush in and to stop, and 3 other police officers did not allow that to occur. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. This show is called Black Lives Matter, Keep Your Eye on the Prize. This piece behind me is the namesake for this show. She is a woman of African descent. In one eye, she is blinded by the world. The other eye, she has a target. One is a target on her as an African American woman, as well as her looking out into the world, targeting the world for a better future as to what's to come. And her eye is put to the side, into the periphery, so she's able to see all around her, so she can make the best choice that she needs to make in any moment, so she can pivot quickly, be it yay or nay. The piece that I mentioned earlier, Black Lives Matter AIDS, it's an honor of a dear friend of mine who's been passed now for almost 30 years, Ed. And so while Ashley can't be here, I will start off the evening and end it with a piece of poetry that I wrote back in the early 90s. And it's a collaboration of also of movement of street poetry, where sometimes people are inspired by a piece of music, and then after that, they attach additional thoughts to it. And that's what I will be doing this evening. Oh God, I'm dying. Oh God, I'm dying. Oh God, I'm dying. Oh God, I'm dead. death was bred into his body. A time bomb ticked with its iron clasp wrapped around his chest. He was AIDS prey, his victim of unfortunate circumstance. A man of 20 some odd years, lost in a world of indifference. Fear stalks the common people. They stand an arm's length away. None budge or squirm, but all want to dash, to run while casting blame. He thought he wept alone, but I too cried, to view his beauty slowly dissolve and consume itself before my eyes. Oh God, I'm dead. Thank you again for coming tonight. Please enjoy the refreshments that's hosted by the Hutchinson's Art Center, and I'm available to answer any questions you have about the work. It's a delight to be here, and thank you so much for hosting me.